This Friday edition of Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live is brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. With the promo code Sports Addict, you get 10% off whatever sports card your heart desires. What's your sport? Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, maybe wrestling, maybe even boxing. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You can get it at firstroundcollectibles.com. And right now on firstroundcollectibles.com, they still have sales items up from their Christmas sale, the gift that keeps on giving, up to 50% off. And with the promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sale items as well. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they never ever mind.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on a Friday afternoon on Sports Addict Live on X and on YouTube. It is good to be here. Good to be back. As always, after a 12-gamer in the NHL. Crazy night last night. Lots to get to. 3 games on the ice tonight. Plus, our boys are playing each other tomorrow. Andre, Rangers in Toronto tomorrow night. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We can't help ourselves. We got to talk about ourselves a little bit. Bad beats, the whole deal. Everything coming to you on a Friday. But first, next to me on the screen, John is still away, living his best life. You read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. You see him on Total Apex Sports talking basketball, talking football, talking college hoops, talking college football when the time is right. He talks about everything. Andre, what up, bro?
How's it going, man? Happy Friday.
Yes, sir. We're here.
Yeah, it's a real day of the week this time. It's good. A real day of the year, excuse me.
Yeah, it's not made up weird. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. So before we get into on the ice last night, we will quickly dive into not much to dive into. A late night trade in the NHL. The Toronto Maple Leafs get Ilya Lyubushkin back from the Anaheim Ducks. He was a Leaf for a couple years, had a good couple-year run with us. He is back. The Ducks, 50%. They keep 50% of his remaining contract for a 2025 third-round draft pick, a 6th rounder going to Carolina for an additional 25%. So the Leafs end up paying just under $700,000 of his contract. From a Leafs perspective, I mean, we needed another D-man. We needed another physical guy. We don't need any more skill guys back there. We needed somebody, a lockdown defenseman. I like this deal. I like the price. I think a 3rd rounder next year and a 6th rounder to pay less, way less, I think is totally fine. What it tells me is that that the Leafs aren't done, that they have more up their sleeve, at least potentially up their sleeve. I think it's a good move. It's not, I mean, like, Leaf fans, man, there's a bunch of, when he was here, everybody loved him. And now all of a sudden we don't like him anymore. I don't know. Leaf fans are kind of going crazy over it, but I think it's a good deal. I don't think it can be it, but I think it does shore up the Leafs defensively, and I don't mind that at all. Real quick, Andre, before we get into last night, I was going to say this at the top of the show, and my mind kind of left me, but we're still technically at the top of the show, so no big deal. No harm, no foul. I just got to talk about yesterday, man. The last half of the show, my furnace was broken here, and I had a technician come over unannounced while I'm live. And just the back end of that show was just, I was all over the place. I'm pressing buttons and changing cameras, and I don't know how to change it back. And we got to start making money, more money, so I can pay somebody else to do this, because I don't know what I'm doing over here when it comes to all this. But that was just absolute tire fire. But we're back on a Friday. We're feeling good. Our parlay swept last night, so it's okay. We're back on the rails. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Speaking of which, last night in the NHL, man, tons of big wins, tons of big losses. What is your takeaway on the ice last night?
The Leafs. Wow. I looked at the logo. Got a little flash. The Lightning can't be losing those games, man. I know you and John feel pretty comfortable about them making the playoffs. Ironically, much more than I did, even though I was the one on the New Year's show was like, I think the Lightning are locked in. We've kind of all flipped on that. They lose in overtime to the Sabres yesterday. They were winning that game. They were in a mop. The Sabres were on the second half of a back-to-back, I believe. No, it was their second straight road game. It was the second half of back-to-back. But still, they held the Sabres to 2 goals in 60 minutes, 3 goals total. And they lost that game. They dropped a point. They can't be doing that. They do not. The Lightning do not look good. I think they're in danger, personally. I know they're 6 points up on the Devils. Devils have 3 games in hand. If that's 3 wins, it's erased. And they have 2 easy games coming up. The Islanders, 6 points back, 3 games in hand. Not as good of a team, but they're playing better lately. 3 wins in those. It's tied up. The Capitals, 4 games in hand, 7 points back. If they win all of those, they're ahead of the Lightning. Penguins, 5 games in hand, 8 points back. If they win all of those, they're up 2 on the Lightning. All the teams in the Eastern Conference playoff hunt have played more games than Tampa. All the teams in the Eastern Conference have played more games than Tampa. I think the Lightning are in trouble. That was, I know it was only 1 point yesterday. That was a point I think they can afford to lose. Not the way it happened. Not leading 2-1 and a weak defensive team holding the Sabres to 2 goals on home ice. So I think I might be hitting the panic button on Tampa.
It's a great point that you make about the amount of games played. Because if you look at just the points, you're 100% right. Like, they're 6 points up. Pretty comfortable-ish. But when you've played 3 more games than the Devils, 3 more games than the Islanders, like you said, 4 more than Washington, 5 more than Pittsburgh, like, that is, I think you're 100% right here, man. I do think if anybody can lock it down when it matters the most, I do think it is Tampa, just with the caliber of players that they have. Not only that, but the championship pedigree. But you're right, though. Like, if you lose a game 6-5, then there's at least one other person that you can blame for that, right? That's the goalie. But when you lose 3-2 in overtime to Buffalo, you have to win that game. You're 100% right. I think for me, my takeaway, I think we can kind of segue this into just an update on the standings, because for me, that wild Nashville game, that was the Nashville game against the Wild. I guess the game itself was pretty wild, but Nashville wins 6-1. And to me, talk about points that you can't afford to lose. That pretty much is a wrap for the Wild, I think. You know, they don't have the luxury. Penguins lost last night. That's a big loss, 2-0 to Seattle. But like you mentioned, Pittsburgh has the luxury of having 5 games to play with here. The Wild don't have that. They've played one more game than the Kings and one less game than Nashville. They're 8 points back of the playoffs, and that's pretty much a wrap, I think, for the Wild. I think that was not only did they need the 2 points, but they were playing the team that they're trying to catch, right? And so I was pretty disappointed to see that outcome. The goaltending, I mean, Gustafson's a good goaltender, but the goaltending has been a big question all year long. And it kind of came to a head last night. To not have your big boys step up when you need them the most. They're not mathematically out by any stretch of the imagination. They still have 22 games left, right? That's 44 points. They still got time. But Nashville, you just got to hope that Nashville stubs their toe here soon because they're playing their best hockey of the year. They had a really strong month earlier in the season, but Nashville is just on an absolute heater right now. 7 games in a row for them, 8-2 their last 10. You talk about the other teams. I mean, Seattle beats Pittsburgh. They stay alive, 7 points back of Nashville. They have 2 games in hand. Big win by Dallas, taking the lead from the Jets in the Central Division. But like is the theme, I guess, early on in this show, Winnipeg has 4 games in hand. Colorado with a big win over Chicago to keep pace. You had the Islanders who beat Detroit last night. That gives a little breathing room for the Leafs. That's nice, an extra 4 points there. But big win by the Islanders to keep them alive. They are now 5 points back from Philly. Washington and Philly play tonight. That's a huge game. So just overall, if Pittsburgh didn't have the games in hand that they do, I would be more concerned. I am concerned already with Pittsburgh, but I would be more concerned with that loss last night. But the Wild, man, I've been cheering them on all year, and that's a bad time to lay a dud, man. Bad time.
Yeah. I pretty much agree. With everything that happened in the West yesterday, really, the Dallas needed that game. Good for them. Minnesota needed that game, and they're done. Too many teams to overcome. Not enough games left at this point.
100%. No, 100%. A question for you, kind of off the cuff here. That Vancouver game last night. Vancouver loses 5-1 to the Kings, and are like to say that we're concerned. Like, I don't know. I bet you Vancouver fans are concerned. If you check out Vancouver Twitter, I'm sure it's in an uproar right now. But you know, it wasn't just that the Kings won. You never felt, at least watching the last period and a half of that game, you never felt like Vancouver was going to win that game. The Kings were they absolutely locked it down. They played a very, very tight brand of hockey. And the Kings, man, this team is a phrase that I've used a lot, but this Jekyll and Hyde business, man. Like, I think mathematically the Kings are obviously more than likely to make it to the playoffs, but there are nights when I watch this team and I just think like they're not a playoff team. And that win last night, man, they did what they had to do in Vancouver. Huge win for them.
100%. And it really, like you said, it didn't feel like Vancouver was ever a threat.
No.
In that game. holding the Canucks to 23 shots is incredible by the Kings. Kudos to them. That's the style they want to play. You kind of said something about this Jekyll and Hyde thing. I feel like one of the LA Stanley Cup teams from a decade ago had like the same business in the regular season. Where it's just like sometimes they were god awful, but then they would go on these runs where they were unstoppable. And of course, they got hot at the right time and won it all. Not saying the Kings are going to win it all this year, but just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, John said it the other day, and I disagree with him based on the context of the last few months, but he was talking about the Kings goaltending, and Cam Talbot for the first few months of the year was an absolute Vezina candidate, and he fell off the face of the earth. Like his play just took an absolute downhill turn. And he played phenomenal last night. Like we already said, I didn't think Vancouver at any time was gonna win that game, but when he needed to, he made some big saves. So huge win by the Kings. Kings and Nashville both 70 points. I do think in the West, like, listen, if you get in, anything can happen. But I do feel like in the West, more so than the East, that those two wildcard spots are a formality. Like I can't see Winnipeg or Dallas or Colorado losing to the Kings or Nashville. I know like last night notwithstanding, I can't see Vancouver losing to the Kings or Nashville. So I feel like if you get into the playoffs in the West, it's kind of a formality, but you get in, anything can happen.
Oh, that's hockey. Doesn't matter where you get in from.
100%. All right. Bad beats, man. There was a couple for me. I mean, let's start with you. I gotta think about this for a sec.
Well, I told you yesterday. Really liked the Canadians under 2.5 team goals, because the Panthers had that long streak of holding teams under 3 goals. It started in January, and it had survived until yesterday, the imaginary day of every 4 years. And it was looking good. First period, the Canadians scored, whatever. Second period is where the issue came up, but we'll get to that later. Because the third period, the Canadians scored again to tie it up, force overtime at 3-3. Shouldn't have got that far. Second period, 1 second left, face off in the Panthers D zone, off the draw. Canadians win, quick shot, gets through. They score a goal with 0.7 seconds left in the second period. What are you doing? Like, just come on. That's how the bet loses. I was like, I looked at the score because I didn't watch the entire game. I looked at the score. I saw there was less than a minute left in the second, 2-1. It's like, okay, like, have a goal to give. It's the Panthers. I'm fine. They can give up 1 goal in the third. We're chilling. I checked the score during intermission, and it's 2-2. I'm like, how did I miss a goal that quickly? And I see the play, and I'm like, are you kidding me? 0.7 seconds left. Like, you couldn't just escape. So now I have no room for error in the third. And obviously, Canadians, a scrappy bunch that they are, got 1 goal and killed a parlay of mine. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, with this Florida team, man, they're playing close games right now. It's so bizarre. Like, didn't Buffalo took them to overtime a few days ago? Yeah. Like, Montreal's taking them to overtime. They're finding ways to win, but not overly convincingly by any stretch of the imagination. But that does leave me to continue my point of this is the best team in the league. Like, they will win. They'll just find a way to win, even when they don't have their best. So my bad beat, I'll go to Boston for this one. I picked Vegas to win, not just on this show, but also financially. And Vegas, They're down 3-0 within like 5 minutes. It felt like they were down very early in this game. They're down 3-0. Come back, 3-2 game. Boston goes back up 4-2. I thought, okay, game's done. Wasn't really paying attention. All of a sudden, boom, 4-4. And to me, you come back from being down 3-0, come back from being down 4-2, the momentum that carries 4-4, at least get some 3-on-3. And I like Vegas's chances if they get into the extra period. And Boston just finds a way to not only win the game, but avoid overtime and get the full 2 points without a 5-minute 3-on-3 sweat. They win. Florida wins. The top of that division is still tied. Big win for the Bruins. But yeah, that's my bad beat. I thought for sure you come back from 3-0, back from 4-2, you tie that game. I felt for sure that momentum was going to carry them to a win, but did not happen.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I saw them down 3-0. I was like, wow, I guess we were wrong. And then the Bruins did what they've been doing lately, and it's not put a team away. And I was like, oh, Vegas is fine. We're going to see another OT one way or another. And it's funny because yesterday, both of us on the show were like, yeah, this game will probably go to OT. And, why not take Vegas in a 3-on-3? You got a good chance if you get that far to win the game. Better odds, good team. And in Boston, the one time they don't do it.
I know. Well, before we move on, we got to touch on our parlay, Pucks Across Borders best bets. It hit. There's only 2 of us, so a little easier. Although John was riding a perfect week heading into his vacay, so no fault of John. I picked the Maple Leafs -1.5, which I never picked the Leafs on a best bet, but I did last night -1.5. You picked the Canes -1.5. Both of these teams are up 2-0. Both of these teams end up going through the third period up 3-2, and both of these teams score an empty netter in the final minute to nail our parlay. I was watching the Leaf game, and I don't know if I've ever had a 2-leg where I'm literally counting on 2 empty net goals, and they both hit. It was a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
You always got to bet on the empty net, right?
Yeah.
Always keep that in mind when you bet. And
Columbus, like they're making us sweat the last few days, man. Like, they're a feisty team. I know not Caleb Martin, but Spencer Martin, Caleb Martin, completely different sport and different location, different everything. But Spencer Martin in net, I know, but you just expect Carolina to win that game convincingly. But hey, they got the win, 3-2 heading into the final minute, got the empty netter. The Leafs, Coyotes kept that game much, much closer than it should have been. And one thing that we haven't mentioned on this show, Clayton Keller's been out for the last little bit. So you have a team that's already struggling. You take away their best player. You got to win better than 4-2. But positive Friday, they win. Everything's fine. No big deal. With that, let's segue right into it, man. Arizona is in Ottawa tonight. I will be a few hours down the road watching Ottawa's AHL team, meeting up with a buddy who lives far away. We're meeting halfway. Want to watch some hockey. I didn't feel like going to Ottawa, so I'm going to Belleville for the Belleville Senators. Just juggernaut against the Rochester Americans. That'll be, it'll be really fun to see my buddy. I don't know how good the game's going to be. Who knows? But it'll be fun nonetheless. Arizona, in Ottawa. Ottawa minus 192 favorites at home. Arizona plus 160 underdogs on the road. Minus 1.5 for Ottawa is plus 124. Plus 1.5 for the Coyotes is minus 148. The over is 6.5 at minus 118, and the under is minus 102. I have no idea, man, where to go with this game. I am probably would recommend responsible gaming. You know how it is. I would probably recommend not to bet this game. Like, who knows, man? Like, maybe the over. Both of these teams are tire fires. Both of these teams' goaltending has not been good. Arizona, 14 straight losses. They've allowed 4+ goals in 10 of those 14 games. And in each of their last 6, Ottawa, 2-game losing streak, 5-5 in their last 10. I don't know. I think the logical, like, it should be Ottawa minus 1.5 plus 124. I think that's what it should be. Ottawa is a much, much better goal scoring team, 11th in the league goals per game. Arizona 26th in the league goals per game. Ottawa can score 5-6 whenever they want, if they want to, if they feel like it. Like I just laid out with the Coyotes, they're giving up goals in bunches right now. This should be Ottawa minus 1.5 plus 124. Arizona, like I said, back-to-back played in Toronto last night. However, Arizona, they have lost 14 in a row. They have to win eventually. Ottawa is the biggest disappointment in the NHL this season, and I don't even think it's close. I don't. That's just my opinion. Maybe you can put Buffalo in there, but at least Buffalo is showing some signs of life here. I feel like this is a play. You got some fun money. Put it on the Coyotes, man. Why not? Plus 160 against a team like Ottawa being 192 against anybody is a joke. I don't care how many games they've lost in a row. I think it's a fun night to put a little sprinkle on Arizona plus 160, but I do think the smarter play is probably Ottawa on the puck line. I just feel like, hey, it was like when the Pistons were losing 80 games in a row, you might as well put something on it. They got to win eventually. So I think for fun, I'll do a little Coyotes sprinkle, but I do think probably the best play is Ottawa minus 1.5. What do you think here?
Yeah, I feel like the smart play has to be Ottawa puck line. But you don't know what you're going to get. That would be the most Ottawa thing ever this season.
Oh, man.
The team that loses to the Yotes to end the losing streak. So, like you, I'd avoid a side. I feel comfortable in the over. I feel confident in the over, actually. So I would take that. Ottawa over 3.5 goals, minus 140. Don't like that. But Carol Vamelka, I have to pick on you a little bit. Over 3.5 goals against is plus 124. In his last 5 appearances, he has 4 starts. In those 4 starts, 6 goals allowed, 4 goals allowed, 5 goals allowed, 4 goals allowed. Going back to January, he had 4 appearances, 3 starts, 6 goals allowed, 4 goals allowed, and only 12 shots against, 5 goals allowed. And then, against the Panthers, he stopped 34-37. He only allowed 3. But the Yotes allow a ton of shots. I'm not counting all that again. I've done that a few times over the past couple of weeks. So just assume it's 35 plus, whatever. I'm sorry I can't give you more than that, people. Not today. But Arizona gives up a ton of shots. The goalies aren't making the saves, probably because they're under too much pressure. It's hard to stand on your head constantly. I like Carol Vamelka over 3.5 goals allowed. Looking at what the Yotes have done, like you said, 4+ goals in 7 straight games. Looking at this losing streak, 4 goals allowed, 4 goals allowed, 4 goals allowed, 6, 6, 4, 5, 3, 5, 5, 3, 3, 6, 6.
Yeah.
there were only 3 threes in there, I believe.
Yep.
In what was that, 14 games now? Over 3.5 allowed for Vimoka. That's my favorite play from this one.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great find. I'm 100% with you. And that way, instead of putting you said what, plus 124 that is?
Yeah.
Because that way, instead of putting the plus 124 on the minus 1.5 for Ottawa, you just rooting for Ottawa to score, and the final doesn't matter. Just root. It's a little bit like you're just rooting for one guy to just suck. Like it's a little bit, but I love it. I'm all about it. All about it. All right. Moving on to I would say there's 1.5 important games tonight. The last one we just talked about is not one of them. This one is one of them. And the Devils play the Ducks, and that's like half important. It's important for Devils. So 1.5 important games tonight. This one being a huge, huge game, as we laid out earlier in the show. Philadelphia, 69 points in that third spot in the Met. Washington, 63 points, 6 points back of Philly, and 7 points back of Tampa for that last wild card spot. Massive, massive game. It doesn't change much in the wild card race, but if they want hope of snagging that third spot from Philly, this is a huge, huge game. Washington was plus 124. But within the hour that has changed to was plus 120, and within the hour that has changed to plus 124. Philly is now minus 148. The over is 6 at minus 108. The under is minus 112. Philly minus 1.5 is plus 190, while Washington's plus 1.5 is minus 230. Andre, what do you see in this game tonight? Huge game, huge, in the nation's capital.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a man of my word. I honor my bets.
I appreciate that. I respect the hell out of that, and I keep forgetting that we made that bet. So
I know, me
you
too.
would have to keep me accountable. The Flyers won the only meeting between these teams this season back in December, 4-3 in a shootout. However, the Flyers also, I don't know why I looked this up, but I did, have a 5-game losing streak against Metro teams. It spreads out a bunch. It dates back to the very beginning of January. For some reason, they've barely played divisional games so far. But one of those games was also Columbus. The Flyers had also, they were 1-3-1 before destroying Tampa the other night. Whereas the Capitals had a 5-game point streak before the NHL schedule makers made them fly to Detroit for the second half of a back-to-back against a fresh Red Wings team, which was already a nightmare matchup for them. I like the Capitals back on their home ice. I've kind of accepted that they're not going to go anywhere, even though they're not good. And I think the Flyers don't get enough separation to be a team that fares well against Washington. I think their style is going to let the Capitals hang around, and that's the most dangerous thing you can do, because I feel like when this team has hope, they deliver. They capitalize on it, so to speak. So I do like Washington at home to get back on track. They were playing better before their most recent game than the Flyers were. I'll give the Flyers credit for that Lightning win. It was very impressive, very big for them, but I think they're going to get back to losing in this one.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know it. I've been this way all year. I love Philly. I'm high on the Flyers. I think they do hold on to that third spot. I think they make it into the playoffs, and I think they can beat Carolina in the first round. I've said that for the last few weeks, and I stand by it. I do think this is a tough spot for them tonight. I think you have a very, very motivated Washington team at home. Philadelphia, that crazy game against the Penguins on Sunday. And then that absolute beatdown of the Lightning that you mentioned the other night. Philadelphia, the one thing that concerns me for Washington, if we're looking at the recent trends, is Philly has scored 6 goals 2 games straight, which one of two things happens, obviously, right? Either you continue that and you score 4, 5, 6 goals against again tonight, or you just completely regress and you score like 1 or 2 goals. So that does worry me. They have scored 3+ goals in 7 of their last 8. Washington's 5-3-2 in their last 10. I think I'm right there with you though tonight. There's something about this game. I feel like Washington is a desperate hockey team. I think they're home. Philadelphia is coming off a crazy last couple games. I just think this is a natural letdown spot for the Flyers. And I think that it's every game right now is a must win for Washington. And I think they get up for this one. And I think they win tonight as well. I'm kind of, the 6, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning over, but I don't really feel one way or the other about this total. I think Washington money line's good enough at +120. The only other thing that I will mention, as I like to do, Owen Tippett. I knew he's been getting a lot of shots, but I was looking this up and I was kind of shocked. Where is it here? I just had it. Owen Tippett. So he has 28 shots in his last 5 games. 28, averaging over 5 shots per game. His over 3.5 is -150, which obviously I do not like. Where is it here? I just had it. Owen Tippett. Here we go. So 4+ shots, -150. For him to get 5+ shots tonight is +145. I believe, I could be wrong here, so check this. I believe Konechny is still out. He's not listed on any of the props. I do believe Konechny is still out. Owen Tippett is their next big boy up. I like him to get 5+ shots tonight, +145. And +145 is pretty short odds for 5+ shots. So I do think that's a really good play. Like I said, 28 shots over the last 5 games. So I like him getting 5+ tonight with their top dog, Konechny, out right now.
Yeah, Konechny's still out. And Tippett has been phenomenal lately.
Yep.
Especially 3-game stretch earlier in February. I guess the middle of February, he had 10 shots against the Devils, 5 shots against the Blackhawks, 10 shots against the Rangers, all in a row. And he goes on binges like that. He had a 5-10-5 in January. He had a 5-5-2-6-6 5-game stretch in December. He goes on binges like that, and he's a great player. And he scored a goal against the Capitals the first time these teams met. 3 shots, a goal, +2 on the ice. So I think Tippett props are phenomenal in this one, especially with Konechny out with the lower body injury for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, the Devils are hanging out with our boy John for a few days down in California. They are -265 favorites against the Anaheim Ducks. That has now moved. Lots of money coming in on the Devils. That is -278 now, where the Ducks are +225. The over is 6.5 at -120, while the under is +100. The Devils -1.5, -112, while the Ducks +1.5 is -108. The Ducks did play last night. Was that game in Anaheim or San Jose?
San Jose.
San Jose. So second night of a back-to-back. I know it's still California. San Jose is not super close to Anaheim, but still in Cali. I I think the obvious play here is Devils -1.5. I think the same thing can be said as Washington, if not more so. Is the Devils are a desperate hockey team right now. The Ducks are what they are. Their top guys might be moving by the deadline. Who knows what's going on? They already moved one of their key defensemen to the Leafs. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. But that being said, the Devils right now 5-4-1. The Ducks right now 4-5-1. The recent stretch, we talk about the Devils a lot, considering John is a massive Devils fan. We talk about them a lot, as we talk about all of our teams a lot. The Devils are like, I mean, dude, who knows? Like, yeah, -1.5. Like, I think -1.5 at -112. I don't know. I can see it. I think -278 for this Devils team. I know the Ducks suck, but this Devils team does not deserve a -278 line to me. I just don't see it from them. I do think, though, the back end of a back-to-back for the Ducks, this is a game that the Devils have to have. They have a much more difficult game against the Kings coming up on the weekend. They took care of business against the Sharks. I was skeptical with them against the Sharks. I believe I took the Sharks +1.5. I think I'm gonna go Devils here -1.5. I know that we talk about on this show the Devils puck line and how not to trust it, but I'm gonna go -1.5 here, man. I just think they need this game. The Ducks are not a good hockey team. They lost one of their top defensemen to a trade. They're on the second night of a back-to-back. I think that the Devils step up and get the job done here to continue the road trip. -1.5. Jack Hughes, he sticking with the shot totals. He has 33 shots over the last 5 games, averaging over 6 shots per game. Over 4.5 is -160 for him. You're not, 5+ shots -150, 6+ shots -135, which sounds like a lot, but for him it's really not. And so 6+ shots for Jack Hughes. I know it's a long shot, but it's not if you watch this guy play. +135 for him to score 6. On the Anaheim side, Vetrano, 3 goals in his last 5 games. For him to score tonight is +175. So those are my 2 kind of props that I have my eye on, but I do think I'm leaning Devils here -1.5. I'm close to picking the Ducks +1.5, but I just think this Devils team, you're facing the Ducks. You gotta win this game and win it big. What say you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, especially since the Ducks played yesterday. This is a game where the Devils have to do what they did in San Jose the other day, which is dominate. And I expect them to. They looked like they looked like it. They handled their business. They played Devils hockey. They scored 7 goals against a bad team. They were down at first. They didn't leave any doubt in the end. And that was without a power play goal. 7 even strength goals. So I think they take advantage of Anaheim's tired legs in this one for sure. I think they take advantage of Anaheim's penalty kill. They allowed 3 power play goals to the Sharks last night on 6 attempts. So they had an ugly performance. Give up 4 goals to the Sharks, 4 goals a game before that, 7 goals to the Jackets 2 games before that, 9 goals to your boys a few days before that. There's a couple 5s also in the beginning of February. This Anaheim team has not been stopping pucks lately. Devils are a dangerous offensive team. For them to get over 4.5 goals is +125. I like that one. Jack Hughes getting a power play point is +105. I think that's a good bet. And the over, the Devils -1.5. I think those are locks.
Yeah, absolutely love it. I'm just looking for this New Jersey team. Like, put up or shut up here, boys. You're playing the Ducks. You got to get these points. The Kings, as much as we don't trust the Kings, they've been playing much better lately, and they found something. So you got to win that game tonight. All right, moving on to let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, man.
Let's do it.
Tomorrow night, we're doing this just for fun. We usually don't talk about Saturday's games, but you know what? They're home and they're playing the New York Rangers. The odds for that game on DraftKings just posted, which is awesome. Toronto minus 120 favorites at home against the Rangers plus 100, which I find very interesting. The over is 6 at minus 120. The under is plus 100. Plus 1.5 for the Rangers is minus 265. Minus 1.5 for the Leafs is plus 215. We'll start with you, man. What do you see in this game? Your boys that are in Toronto. I would also love a comment from you on the odds here. I'm a little bit surprised. I know that Toronto's played very, very well. They have skyrocketed in the power rankings for a lot of different people. They're playing the best hockey of their year and probably the best hockey of their last few years. But I kind of expected the Rangers to be minus money here, and I think they were minus money at one point on other books. So, yeah, Rangers plus money on the road. What do you think, man?
I'm not surprised by this line. I figured at home, with the way the Maple Leafs have been playing, I know Joseph Woll is back. I do want to ask you about how you feel about the goalie situation when we get to you and your team. But yeah, I'm not surprised that Toronto's favorite here. I think they should be. And it's not crazy. If they were like minus 155 or minus 135, I'd be like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah. Minus 120, I think, is fine. Like minus 120, minus 115, around there is where I think they should be. The offense is on fire. Save for that Vegas game for your boys, it's been a constant barrage on everybody. Colorado, Arizona, I guess that trip to Vegas the first time, Anaheim, we just talked about, you scored 9 on them. Dallas, there was a 5-er earlier in February. Toronto's playing very good hockey right now, which is why this game is very interesting. The Rangers have surged, almost had a perfect February, if not for a trip to Columbus. And it was on the strength of Igor Shesterkin in the defense. Igor had a perfect month in net. The team allowed fewer than 2 goals in 4 of their last 5 games. Flipping to the beginning of the month, they held the Avalanche and the Lightning in back-to-back games to 1 goal. They shut out the Flames. Crazy defense has carried the way, and Artemi Panarin continuing his great season that's going to get no love because Kucherov, McKinnon, and McDavid exist. But looking at this game, I know the Rangers, when they went to Toronto the first time, they won 5-2. If they hold the Leafs to 2 or fewer goals again, insanely difficult task, especially right now. I think the Rangers win. If this game opens up a bit, I could see the Rangers forcing overtime. But a higher scoring game, I think, has to favor the Leafs. If you're looking like a 4-3, 5-4 type deal, the Rangers can score with Toronto, but in Toronto, if you're asking to trade goal for goal, it's not going to happen. The key to this game is Rangers defense against Toronto's offense. As simple as that sounds. Strength on strength.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game. I'm like really looking forward to it. It's interesting. You like you mentioned the previous times that the Leafs played the Rangers. They beat you guys in Madison Square 7-3. Then you guys beat us at Scotiabank 5-2. I feel like the Leafs, they're playing their best hockey of the year right now. I know the Rangers had a very good start to the season, but I feel like the Rangers are also playing their best hockey. And I'm kind of expecting a very tight defensive game on both sides. Both of those last games, whoever won by the 1.5, right? Whoever won covered the minus puck line. For me, the fact that it's 6 is like killing me, because if it was 6.5, I think an underplay would be very, very tempting. And at plus money, a Rangers Leafs game going 3-2 though, like I can't see it. I can absolutely see it being 4-2 game either way. Whoever wins this one being 4-2, being held under 6. Like I said, if it was 6.5 or even 7, then I would probably jump all over the under. Because I do think it is going to be a much more reserved, tighter hockey game. To your question about the goaltending situation, I mean, listen, like, Wool played great last night. I know it's against the Coyotes, but he made some big saves in that game, and he kept that game close. Like, the reality is the Leafs were up 3-0. They won 4-2. That game became 3-2. And if it wasn't for Wool, that game could have been 3-3 by the middle of the second period. Like that, it was a really good performance by him. He's a very good goaltender. The problem with Wool is he's young, and we saw him for a little bit in the regular season last year, not a ton. We saw him a little bit in the playoffs last year. He was having a phenomenal year before he got hurt, but he was out for a long time. Like, he was out for almost 3 months. So what to expect from him long term, I don't know. He is being hailed right now as the goaltender for the future for the Maple Leafs. He is their long-term plan. So, I'm glad he's back. Jones deserves so much credit for keeping this team where they are. I think without him and the issues that Samsonov has had, without Jones, this team would not be in the situation that they are in. Samsonov has played very well, pretty well, considering the fact that he took like a 2-week mental leave absence just to get his head right. And he's played really well since then. I am not, I'm not concerned, like, I've been more concerned about the goaltending on this team. I don't love the idea. Like, I want to go into the playoffs knowing who my guy is. I don't really want to go into the playoffs with a tandem. I want to pick one guy and roll with it. If it is a tandem, I mean, obviously much different as far as skill goes, but Boston's having this question right now, right? Who do we roll with in the playoffs? Do we do a tandem? Do we have Swayman? Do we have Allmark? Allmark has been the guy that they have gone with the last couple of years, and it hasn't gone that well. So I personally think that they should choose Swayman. But either way, like, I don't like the idea of, if Samsonov plays great, no matter what, Wool's in next and rotate. I don't like that. I want to know who our guy is. And right now, I just don't. So I am glad he's back. I don't really know what they do. The big issue when it comes to the goaltending for Toronto is, or one of the issues is, you can't send anybody down, like, besides Wool. So right now you have 3 goaltenders. If you send Jones down, he's gone. Like, he has to go through waivers. He's gone. Like, you're telling me the Devils, if they can't get something done before the trade deadline, now, I believe, if you know this for a fact, then please correct me. I believe that after the trade deadline, you can send people down without going through waivers, I believe.
I would have to double check on that.
Yeah, I think that's the case, which if it is, then you're only keeping Jones up here for another week. So it's not a big deal. But that's taking a roster spot away from somebody else, right? So really interesting to see what happens with that moving forward. I'm happy Wolf's back. He's the guy. He was the guy before he went down with an injury. I don't think they should just start him every single game now. I think that Samsonov has deserved equal, if not more starts. But when it comes to the playoffs, this is going to be that coaching staff is going to be looking very closely all the way to the playoffs, man. Because right now, I don't know who you roll with. A little long-winded, but that's my answer. That's my answer to the Wool question. And trust me, in this market, we love talking about goalies, specifically third stringers and rookies, and we love it here.
That I got a lot of insight into how your mind works with that answer, and I absolutely loved it. So thank you.
Yeah, well, careful what you wish for. I did realize though I didn't even give you my side. Oh yeah, we talked about the under whatever. I was telling you before the show. I do, as a Leaf fan, I am very, and I've said this before on the show. I am very uncomfortable with how much I bought into this team. It took me 5 months before I thought this team could actually go far in the playoffs. All year long, I figured if they're playing Florida or Boston in the first round, there's no chance. I think if we get Boston in the first round, I think we beat Boston. If we get the Rangers in the first round, I think we can at least skate with the Rangers. Like Florida, I've said this before, Florida is the one team that I am terrified of. I think there's no way around it. That team, I see them going all the way back to the finals. But, man, it took me 5 months, but I believe in this Leafs team, man, and it's very uncomfortable. I still haven't healed from all these last years, and I feel like I'm ripping a Band-Aid off before it's healed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, I think the Leafs can hang with anybody. I think they can skate with anybody. I think at the very worst, there's not a team in the Eastern Conference they can't push to 7 in that first round, if not win the series. So, yeah, your boys are in good shape. I'm glad you got some optimism about them finally. The scars are healing a little bit.
Yeah, I'm coming around. I do like them tomorrow on the money line. I think it's a tough spot for the Rangers. Both of these teams have been winning a lot. Toronto, Saturday night, they've been playing really well. I do think that Toronto wins that game, but I might not put money on it. I might just sit back and watch it with you and just enjoy.
Yeah, it's nice to just enjoy sometimes. No financial stake, just vibes.
No, that's right. I have plenty of other games my money on. So
what's funny is the Leafs are on national TV once in their next 4 games. It's not the Rangers. It's not the Bruins on Monday. It's not the Bruins next Thursday. It's the Sabres on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. Of course. The battle of the Niagaras. That game, that's a terrifying game. I'm more worried about Buffalo than I am you guys. Let's be honest about this. That's the game that's terrifying. All right, let's move on. Wrap up the show on this Friday with our best bets, brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. Right now, with the promo code Sports Addict, you get 10% off whatever sports card your heart desires, whether it's on sale or a regular priced item. It doesn't matter. You get it with the promo code Sports Addict, 10% off. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number 1, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. Andre, what is your best bet for Friday night? Let's get the back-to-back sweep, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm a little torn here. I know Fridays usually get a little weird. Jack Hughes' power play point has hit for me the last 2 times I bet it. So I kind of want to do that again. Ducks have a weak penalty kill, 27th. They gave up 3 goals shorthanded and 6 tries against the Sharks last night. Just not what you ever want to hear, at least not in the 2020s so far.
No.
But I don't think I'm gonna stay up that late and find out what happens. I think I'm just gonna ride with Carol Vejmelka over 3.5 goals allowed. I'm sorry I have to pick on you, man, but you've been consistently doing it, and you're not helped by the fact that you're consistently facing 35 plus shots when you start.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that your team just overall, even when it's not you, is giving up 4, 5, 6, whatever goals against everybody right now. So Arizona, Vejmelka, before the net gets, or the empty net happens, if they even get to that point, will allow 4 goals. Give me Vejmelka over 3.5 at plus 124.
Absolutely love it. And you know what, John, we miss you. I don't know why you'd watch. You have so much Mexican food to eat. Just forget about us, bro, and eat your food. But I'll tell you what, I'm rolling with your boys. Devils minus 1.5 against the Ducks. This is more, I do believe that they will hit this bet. We're spending money that we work hard for. We're not just throwing money to the wind. That being said, I am putting my money on the fact that you have to win this game and win it big. Do not let this Ducks team stick around. Win this game big, man. You beat the Sharks, 7-2 the other night. Beat the Ducks 5-1, 5-2, 6-3. I don't care. Beat them and beat them good. Ducks minus 1.5.
Yeah, you're spot on with that one. So it's two bets, nothing crazy. Vejmelka over 3.5 goals against plus 124. The New Jersey Devils minus 1.5 at minus 112. It's plus 324 when you put it together.
Absolutely love it. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining me and Andre on this Friday. It's been a good week. Let's finish it up with a sweep. We will see you guys on Monday. Thank you to First Round Collectibles. Thank you to Total Apex Sports. Thank you to Andre. Thank you, man. Great job. Good luck on your bets this weekend. We will see you Monday.